Muted. We were just muted there. Hey, Tyler, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing, Jeff?
I am pretty groovy, man. I just got a tweet out so everyone knows that we're live streaming. So we are live on the YouTubes and looking good. We were talking about this earlier for anyone who's watching. We got the new overlays here on YouTube. So we got new overlays, some titles, some branding. I think it looks pretty clean. I'm digging it.
Awesome.
Anyway, dude, happy Friday. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you.
How's your week been?
A little smoky, but can't complain.
Yeah.
Staying inside, staying safe. But
Good.
yeah, the air, looking outside right now, and it's pretty smoky out there. But
Ugh, yeah. Is it as bad as it was a couple days ago?
visibility's a lot better, but the air quality has gotten worse. So I think it was Wednesday is when the sun really didn't ever come up in San Francisco, but now there's at least light, but the air quality is much worse. So,
Dude, I'm so sorry.
it's all right.
I know we were talking about that a little bit earlier before the show and getting ready, and it's been so brutal across the Bay Area. So for anyone who is watching this morning, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Another week of the Baz Bites live stream. We took a couple weeks off there for some logistics and other things we had going on, but we're back. And today we're talking with actually, let's introduce yourself, Tyler, because you have not been on the stream before. So why don't you tell us about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, sure. First time on the stream. Nice to meet everyone. My name's Tyler Fox. I'm a systems engineer here at Cisco, based out of San Francisco. And I'm on one of our commercial teams here where I support around 10 customers in a variety of different industries, but large focus of my customers are in healthcare and manufacturing. So happy to be on the show.
Awesome, dude. I'm super happy you're here. So Tyler and I are on the same team at Cisco, and we've been all kind of working to find folks to make sure to join the show and talk about these subjects from a different perspective. And so I'm stoked you're here today. Yeah, we were talking a bit ahead of time before the show about things going on. And for folks who don't know, Tyler and I both live in the Bay Area. Tyler's in San Francisco. I'm here in the East Bay. And everyone's probably aware the fires are pretty bad right now. And 2 days ago, the joke was that we apparently all moved to Mars, because you look at the pictures outside and it was just like dark red and orange everywhere. It was very like Mad Max in the Bay Area. But we're going to take a little break from all of that and talk some technology today. So for anyone who's joining either during the live stream or after the live, we would love it if you could, if you want to take a look at the comments, post comments below. We'll be watching those throughout the show, and we'll interact. We'll have some questions if we can, and we'll just have a good time with it. If you want to hit subscribe, here right down below over here somewhere in the YouTube window, you'll see that big old subscribe button. Just match that away, and you'll get notified anytime we put out new videos and live streams and whatever else. And then, yeah, we'll catch up on that stuff a little bit later. But for today, Tyler and I were talking about this a little bit earlier about what would be kind of an interesting topic to go through. And, recently we've been talking a lot on these streams and in our videos about, not just Cisco technologies and technology in general, especially around remote work and, with all these companies that we work with in the Bay Area, and I probably everywhere too, everyone's got folks working from home. There's a lot more need for automation and simplifying what we do. It's just always hard to figure out what's really relevant. And so when Tyler and I were talking this morning or yesterday about like what we should really dive into, the whole idea of SD-WAN and what that can mean for businesses, and what relevancy it still has for business. So as Tyler and I were chatting about a little bit earlier, sorry, I'll go through my notes here real quick to make sure I've got everything up and prepped. As we were talking about SD-WAN a little bit earlier, one of the things that was interesting is Tyler sort of brought up the idea of, how do we have this conversation with a customer, especially now that half the employees, if not more than half the employees of every company, are working from home or working remote in some capacity. So how is SD-WAN or technologies like SD-WAN still relevant for our businesses? And I think that's something Tyler really wanted to dive in. Did you want to kind of kick us off there on that one, Tyler?
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely something that I've thought about quite a bit, as well as just talking with colleagues at work is really, how relevant is SD-WAN right now still? Because as you said, with a lot of companies that are fully remote for the first time, I think they've really deprioritized the need for SD-WAN right now. But I don't think it takes away from its relevance, because, at least everyone I've talked to, friends, family, colleagues at other companies, our customers, everyone wants to return to the office. I think a lot of people are being forced to work remote for the first time, but everyone, with the exception of a couple companies that have gone fully remote, everyone is still planning to go back. And so, and that's just within certain industries, right? Healthcare, manufacturing, places where I think state like government and education are other ones where, being there in person is always for the foreseeable future going to be the future going forward. So I think it's still as relevant as ever. It just may be a little bit deprioritized right now with everyone being at home.
Yeah, and
at least that's what I've seen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too, especially for, a lot of the business verticals that in our region that we support, but just in general, there's a lot of businesses that, don't have a customer physical presence because the industry they're in, like call it manufacturing, supply chain, silicon, whatever, software companies. There's no physical presence. There's like your customer doesn't show up in a store of some kind and say, "Hi, I'd like to buy a thing from you." But on the flip side, and Tyler, you're a great example of this, you've got a lot of customers in your patch that are in the healthcare industry specifically. And so interacting with individuals or people on a regular basis is a big part of that, especially with hospitals and clinics and what have you. So what have you sort of been noticing in these conversations you're having with customers in like how SD-WAN actually is benefiting, or technologies like SD-WAN are benefiting what they do today, whether it's manufacturing or whether it's, healthcare, whatever else? What are you sort of hearing from them right now about that?
Yeah, I think in a couple of our customers in healthcare now, the SD-WAN is very relevant. There are a few customers I have that are largely clinic focused. So lots of different sites, small sites that are, they're adding 3, 4, 5 a year. And so, COVID has not slowed any of that down. It's really accelerated the amount of people that are coming in for care. And so it's made those conversations even more relevant and kind of created a larger need for the technology. So, still very relevant.
Yeah, it's really interesting that speaking like hospitals is a good example. In our coverage group, we do cover a lot of healthcare in general, and I think it's really interesting because we've seen, especially with COVID spinning up, we've seen a lot of hospitals or healthcare organizations spin up temporary clinics or parking lot locations. And I think what might be really interesting for folks watching right now to understand is it may seem obvious or like an obvious connection to draw that you would have SD-WAN when you have multiple locations, but maybe talk us through a little bit about why it is so important to have a technology like SD-WAN or things that kind of come along with that for, let's say, a remote clinic or a parking lot hospital or any others, like even a retail location. Like they all kind of play the same role. What is it about SD-WAN from sort of your perspective that helps, as opposed to just having, here's a location with a VPN tunnel? What is it about SD-WAN that actually helps in that case?
Yeah, totally. I think specifically for a remote hospital or a site like that, one of the biggest things is, greater resiliency, right? So being able to monitor your links in real time. So whether you're using a more affordable public internet or direct internet connection versus a, typically more expensive MPLS connection, if you have an SD-WAN solution for healthcare specifically, a huge benefit of that is being able to monitor your links in real time and detect failures and switch over. And so some of that capability, which is inherent in SD-WAN, but I think for healthcare, that's a big one, definitely.
Is it, and from your perspective, the conclusion I would sort of draw from that is that the monitoring would be for applications or bandwidth or other like key sort of KPIs, key performance indicators, but things, data points that you need to be aware of to make sure that and confidently know that location is going to be able to stay up and operational to serve the patients or the community that it's part of. Is there anything else in that or any more specifics you've seen or heard from in these healthcare companies that they're really focusing on and why any SD-WAN solution has really been so critical for them?
I think that's definitely a big one. Like you said, being able to monitor applications. Another thing that COVID has forced a lot of healthcare companies to do now, and they were also incentivized through grants, but telehealth, right, has really boomed. So that's another one of those things, right, where having some sort of, WAN technology in place that makes it easier to get these remote sites up and running, or these small clinics, or allow people to use telemedicine is definitely a big one too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to take a quick break for a sec. We've got some folks streaming or on the live stream with us right now. Thank you all so much for joining. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions or any feedback throughout the show, definitely throw them in the comments on YouTube. We'll see them, pop them up on the screen. ask us questions. We'd be happy to interact with you and follow up later on as well. So Tyler, kind of switching gears a little bit off of the healthcare industry specifically, because I'm sure we could talk about that a lot. The big thing right now, obviously, is companies thinking about what their plans are going to be for returning to work safely. And clearly no one has a single answer for what that's going to look like. I think we should probably talk a little bit about what sort of planning or what sort of, I guess, maybe pain points you've heard from customers when it comes to how do we prep for employees going back to the office. Because like at Cisco, for example, we're probably not going back into an office. I don't think they're officially even checking to see whether it makes sense until like January 1st, or is it something like that? I think was what we heard. And we're going back with a whole new strategy using like shared workspaces and less physical office space, doing more remote work. I mean, in sales, we do mostly remote work anyway. I think it'd be really interesting to understand, like, when you've been talking to companies of all verticals, whoever you talk to, what are some of the pain points you've been hearing them say that they're challenged with in prepping that return to work strategy?
Yeah, totally. I think one of the biggest things is just that it seems like a lot of my customers have been kind of routinely pushing back when they think they're going to return as well. And I think what's going on is a lot of them weighing the pros and cons of, right, the risks they're taking to bring people back into the office versus the benefits they're actually getting of them being there. So I think that kind of goes back to earlier I was saying where, I think being in the office has temporarily been deprioritized right now, and rightfully for good reasons. Mm-hmm. But I think everyone will want to go back. But things I've heard are some companies want to essentially have like two groups of workers, so they can one set that comes in on a Monday, maybe the A group of people on Tuesday, it could be the B set of people, and then they like sanitize the entire building on Wednesday and then rinse and repeat for Thursday and Friday. That's one idea I've heard, but it's challenging. What are the actual benefits we're going to get of bringing everyone back versus? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, you're okay. Your audio cut out just a little bit there for a second. It's okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah. Yeah. So you were saying that it's kind of challenging because some of the logistics are like, we can't safely have everyone back in the building at the same exact time, not only because of the safety of the people physically. That's probably the biggest part of it, is how people physically function within a space. And also on top of that, how do you ensure that you can support the workload of people working in these offices, a lot of additional workload from remote locations and people at home and things like that too?
Yeah, definitely. And I know some of our technology, we're able to help our customers out with COVID type use cases that we're talking around, density monitoring, tracking of users in office spaces, where they've been, who they've come in contact with. So there's technology out there that Cisco's been working really hard to develop and get out to our customers. And I think it'll just really come down to, when vaccines become available, when people start to return. I mean, who knows, it could be the reality going forward for much longer. And so if that's the case, I could see a lot of this technology being leveraged to try to start bringing some people back, because there definitely are benefits, right, of being able to go in.
Definitely. Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, and kind of bringing that return to work idea back around to kind of connecting it with the SD-WAN topic we started off with. I think there's some interest there, because in addition to just, you got me thinking, in addition to sort of just the monitoring of like applications in the pipe and the typical things that you would think about, or the classic things you'd think about for monitoring a WAN and stuff like that, I think, if I'm remembering right, there's also a lot of functionality in like being able to do direct internet access or offloading security functions to like Cisco Umbrella or other clouds, so that, because I don't know, I don't know if you've seen this yet, but I've been hearing from others that other companies we're talking to are looking at doing a lot more like, well, if we're going to keep more and more people who don't need to be in an office all the time or most of the time, if we're going to keep them at home and send them some sort of infrastructure to work from home, it would be good to also give them the flexibility to say, look, we're going to facilitate your home network as well, because we want to maintain that work-life balance for you wherever we can. So maybe we'll let that feed off like a guest wireless, so to speak, for home that split tunnels off to like directly to the internet. I think we are, but remind me, with Cisco, with our Cisco solution specifically in SD-WAN, are we able to do a lot of that sort of functionality as well?
Yeah, definitely. So teleworking, I think, is kind of what you're getting at, right? The
Yeah.
ability to bring your corporate network to your home without needing to VPN in, and that's something that is available to pre-COVID to begin with some of our Meraki teleworking solutions that there was actually a huge boom for when COVID
Oh
first
yeah.
started, right? Being able to get those devices out to a lot of our customers, and then Cisco's also now rolled out some of our access points that are going to be designed for teleworking. So for customers that are looking to keep that policy enforced across uh, their employees who are going to stay home for a few days a week, and really give them that VPN-less experience that they want, so they can be more efficient. Is one of our strategies with the new APs that have come out.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And if, many companies out there do this. Cisco, at least for sales, and I think all the parts of the org for years, we've had, there's a guest wireless that you can access if you're brought into the building, a guest, any building. But we have like kind of a ubiquitous wireless network that people can just access wherever you go. And we've had the ability to use like the virtual office functionality in sales for a long time. So you could essentially have that same wireless at home. It still relies on that VPN connection back, and that can be, I don't want to say shaky, but that adds a layer of overhead. So the whole idea of like the software defined functionality of a WAN connecting whatever teleworker solution you're using, it really does give you a lot of functionality or a lot of flexibility to be able to have people at home and know that they're going to be secure, because not only can you secure them using that sort of SD-WAN function at their home, and give them flexibility to have like direct to the internet, home internet, whatever else, while they're also working. But you also then can secure stuff on the home, on the back end at your data center or your campus. And then for anybody who is in the office, you still have that. And it really does kind of bring that layered security idea that we've been talking about for decades. Just using different technologies now to do it, which is kind of interesting.
Totally. Yeah, I think that COVID's really forced a lot of organizations to have to work remote for the first time, right? And now everyone's kind of rethinking, their architecture, and that was one of the whole things for SD-WAN to begin with, right? Is it's everything was being backhauled to headquarters, to data centers, and I think this has just accelerated the distributed workforce, right? And that's what's really top of mind, what a lot of people are thinking about. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Something I've been hearing, or I heard from a couple customers, a couple of organizations here in the East Bay, in the Bay Area, within the last 2 or 3 years. I heard a comment from a company, their name doesn't matter, but I heard a comment from a company a couple of years ago who was at the time already looking at, hey, I want to get out of the campus business, like buying new office buildings. They had a few that were going to build up, but they wanted to get out of the business of, hey, if we need more employees, we have to facilitate a new building or more floor space leasing, and get more into a model of have those employees wherever they are, and then do something where, hey, if we have 2 or 3 people in the city, just have them work from home. If there's a larger batch, maybe get like a co-working space that you rent out, and have this sort of like tiering model to kind of accommodate whatever workers you need and get the best talent wherever that talent lives. Now, I know that obviously COVID and the situation sort of enforced that happening more. I'm really excited though to see how technologies like SD-WAN, Cisco SD-WAN, Umbrella, Secure Web Access, Web Gateway, things like that can all, and I think you've got some cool stuff you wanted to talk about too, that on some of our recent acquisitions that could help out here too. But these new technologies can really enable a business. I think if they really stop and think about it for a little bit, it's not just how do I get people back in an office because I need them in an office. It's also how do I enable a dynamic workforce to solve the need we really have on the people side, which is people who want to work remote and prefer to do that, great. People who prefer to be in office, fantastic, let's do that. And do we necessarily have to hire people here in this city because this is where our building is? Could we hire them wherever they're at, so long as it's the right talent for the right role? I think this is actually kind of, some of these technologies have really made it a lot easier to do that for businesses.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think going forward, it might be table stakes, right? That the company you work for allows you to work remote. And I think SD-WAN is a huge one that really enables you to have that good experience, to be able to get to the applications you need and do your job no matter where you are. And so, I couldn't agree more.
Awesome, dude. Appreciate it. So quick break for a sec. I know we still got some folks on with us watching. And if you're catching this in the replay, thank you again for being here. We appreciate it. We're talking about SD-WAN, how COVID's affected businesses, and how business decisions can now really be made, I think, more granularly and be more enabled by the technologies we have available like SD-WAN. And so if there's any other questions or comments from the audience, definitely throw those in the comments. We will pull them up and answer anything we can do for you. As we kind of wrap up for the day, though, Tyler, I know there was a couple things you wanted to talk about. They're kind of like have come, but are coming soon. Did you want to jump into any of that new hotness that's kind of coming up?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I will say that Cisco recently closed on the acquisition of Thousand Eyes, which I think most people in the company are really excited about. And I was finally able to link up with an engineer from Thousand Eyes. We're still trying to integrate them into Cisco, and just go through about an hour of the solution with one of my customers, and it was awesome. So I think some things I'm really excited for just with Thousand Eyes is it just couldn't be more relevant today, whether it's solving for deep visibility into networks that aren't your own. So being able to look at the classic providers networks and really having that granularity into how the traffic's performing, and being able to check and see how you're able to get up to your cloud applications if you're working from home, as well as being able to install them in the enterprise. So really going back to these branch locations, these smaller offices that we've been talking about with SD-WAN. With Thousand Eyes, we have the ability to deploy those on Cisco routers today, Cisco 9000 switches. And so I just am really excited to see where we continue to integrate and bring it into our platform. But I just think it just couldn't be more relevant today with people working from home and being able to take a look at those ISPs and get that deep visibility as well as kind of beefing up the analytics within our SD-WAN solution today. Mm-hmm. So I'll stop there. But, yeah, really, really excited for the future going forward. It was great to see it in action, and I think it really resonated with the customer as well. So
that's super cool. Yeah, I haven't seen it like you have, but I've been talking to some of the other folks on the engineering side and hearing a lot about what you just described, as well as the integration between it and App Dynamics, and like how App Dynamics can show that application workflow and the health and do the testing for your apps in your in your building, so to speak. And then Thousand Eyes can kind of handle the other side of that, which is all the things on the networks that you don't control, to give you as a business a much more holistic picture of how those applications are actually functioning, not just for your employees, but also for your end customers. I mean, all of those things layered together, I think, are going to make a huge difference in how businesses make decisions, like how do we bring people back into an office, or how do we restructure what our work looks like so that we can be as productive and effective as possible to deploy products to the customers. We did have a comment come through on YouTube. Pull it up here on the screen. Hey, Matt, how's it going? And it looks like I need to reformat our overlays a little bit because the comments just lay on top of our names, but that's okay. And Matt Saunders, thank you for being here, man. It's really awesome to have you. He said, equally fascinated to see how the COVID-driven rush to work from home will impact people returning to offices or not. It's a really good point. I don't know, Tyler, if you wanted to chime in on that at all.
No, it is a good question. Maybe I'm overly optimistic because I would love to be back in an office at least a couple days a week. But, I agree. I think a lot of organizations, or at least from some friends and family and people I've talked to, is working from home wasn't really an option. And I think now that it's forced organizations to do it, and the wheels haven't totally come off, businesses are still running. So, only time will tell, but I do think that a hybrid model, right, where people have the flexibility to go in or be at home is really, I think, where we'll land somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, Jeff, your thoughts? I completely agree with you. And one of my favorite parts about what it enables, I think, for organizations is the ability to really adapt whatever. You said it, flexibility. It lets you as a business be flexible in this work from home deployment, use the technology to really form what your culture as a business wants to have in that work from home. Because there are we support some businesses that are in certain verticals where being outside of an office is just completely counter to what they do. I would say in finance, specifically like investment finance, being in an office is like fundamental to how you do your work into running business. Being remote really makes their jobs so much more difficult simply because of the type of work that they do. Healthcare is another really good example. Like, there is no real remote work in healthcare. So how do you bring people safely back? Well, it's, like you said, it's going to have to be hybrid, but having these kinds of technologies makes
it not just more flexible for you as a business to structure those and to actually implement them and feel confident that you can safely and securely have people in those locations, not just from a person perspective, but from a tech, like data security and physical security. But it can also let you give that comfort to your employees to know that you're taking them and the culture of your business and putting it into a work from home strategy, so they feel good that as an employee, they are being noticed and they're being taken care of. It's not just about how do we run the business, how do we make a number, how do we secure the data. It's also about how do we treat our employees well. And I think all of this gives a lot of flexibility to businesses to be able to do that in whatever way makes sense for them. For sure.
Yep.
Well, awesome, dude. This has been fantastic. We're right about our normal time for wrapping up. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we bounce for the day?
I think I'm good. I mean, thanks for having me on. I hope I get to come back and talk some more. It's been nice chat with you.
Don't you worry. I am very good at volunteering people to join live stream. So this is awesome, dude. I appreciate you being here. And for everyone joining or catching this in the replay, thank you so much again for being a part of the stream. We're here on YouTube every Friday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific time for about 30 minutes. We'd love to have you join and be part of it. And Matt did throw one more question. Let's throw it up on the screen real quick here. What did Matt say? Matt, sorry for one more question. Do not apologize, Matt. You can always ask questions. Sorry for one more Q. From the learning side of things, is there one or two top items people should be thinking about as they're ramping up their SD-WAN knowledge? Ooh, really good question. Well, I think there's a lot of ways you could do it. And since you asked, Matt, some of my favorite ways is, you can go through some of the Cisco learning tracks that we have. Learning@cisco.com, I think, has things. We've now got the Cisco Platinum Learning Library, which has a lot of places where employees of companies, end users, whoever can get more training on how to do this. I know on the DevNet side, there's also a lot of not just learning tracks at developer.cisco.com to go through to learn about SD-WAN, to learn about automating SD-WAN. There are sandboxes available. We've got our Cisco D-Cloud environment where you can get access from your field sales team to do things there. The DevNet sandboxes have the ability to get in there and play with these technologies too, which is fantastic. And then on top of that, and I'm so glad Matt is on to remind me of it, I think it's September 19th, I think, is the next one. There's the DevCX group hosts the Share IT Solutions meeting every other Wednesday morning. I'll post in the chat a link to it unless Matt has it handy, because I know he facilitates those. That's the next one is going to be all about automating policy within SD-WAN, so it's super timely. So I would say, I don't know if you have any more, Tyler, but there's a lot of options to get training. Many are paid, many are not required any money at all. So there's a lot of really good ways to get exposure to this.
Yeah, you hit a lot of them, but one good one to add too is just old Cisco live sessions. So being able to watch those for me is always really helpful too. You can find, varying levels of how deep you want to go, but lots of good ways to learn too. Absolutely. Cool. Thanks for bringing that up, Matt. We appreciate the comment. All right, we're going to wrap up. Any future comments? Can't talk. Any other comments that anyone watching might have, or if you're catching this on the replay, just post those comments below. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. We love having you. Definitely hit subscribe over here for any new updates. Hit that little bell for notifications and like the video if you did. Otherwise, have a wonderful afternoon. Have a great weekend. And if you're in some crappy weather, just stay inside. Enjoy it. We'll catch you all later on. See ya.